Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Volleytribe podcast. It's a special episode today because we have our first interview guest, our first interview with one of my coaching friends from around the world. I've said in the first episode of this podcast that one of the goals is to bring you one high quality interview every month with a coach who knows what they're doing in the performance space so that you can learn, you can help improve, and you can hear ways and things that you can take onto your teams. Joining me today is Maria Farsund. She is the coach at Rig Falköping in Sweden and also the Norway U22 women's head coach as well. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So talk to us a little bit about your journey, like who you are, where you coach, kind of what that looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Well, where to start? I'm 34. I'm from a small town called Førde in Norway. And I started playing when I was 8 years old, and coaching didn't really come along until I actually lived in Australia. And I had a coach telling me I would become a better player if I became a coach. So that was my first kind of introduction to the coaching role. And from there, I kept playing and coaching on the side until coaching, I kind of realized you can make a big difference coaching and teach other people what you wish you got taught at an earlier stage. So when I decided to quit playing, it was basically a decision between maybe going pro or going for all in as coaching. And that's what I decided to do. I decided to just go all in coaching, and I wanted to see how far I can go. And I didn't think maybe not much through it, but I wanted to reach the highest level as possible I can. And that's kind of where it started. And then I kind of learned along the way when I'm coaching. And my first step out of the country is basically to Sweden, where I'm now, which is kind of the start on where I want to go in the future, which is see how far I can get. But it's a little step outside the border. And along with that came a few opportunities, national teams, and yeah, so it's kind of fast forwarded a little bit.
Yeah, so talk to us about, so this idea of a volleyball academy is quite a famous thing in Europe where we don't really have anything super like that in the UK. So what does that look like on a kind of day-to-day basis for the athletes? Are they in training every day? Is it early mornings, late nights, or is it kind of built around their academic schedules?
Yeah, so the amazing thing about working at academy versus in a club is that you get to coach the person more. Like you get to coach the whole person. You have them a lot more. You get to follow them up more, along with school. So they come in for morning practices. They have to do the strength and conditioning program, the ball practices. They go to school, and they come back for practice in the afternoon. And they get multiple meals through the day at the school, and they all live together. So and us coaches live nearby. So you basically just have the athlete more, which is what I really like, because you get to coach them at a whole different level because you get more time with them.
Yeah, I mean, I have a sort of similar environment with our university set up here, and we don't have it at the younger ages, but I love the same thing, right? That ability to really help a person find out who they are,
Mm.
and kind of give them little bits of advice on and off the court and help kind of guide them to become a great person, as most people involved in this sport are, is certainly something that I love doing as well. So I can see why you love it. Honestly, I understand that.
Yeah.
Um, you spoke a little bit about being athlete focused there. If you had to sum up your coaching philosophy in one sentence, what would you say, and kind of why do you try and coach that way?
To sum it up in one word is a bit hard, but it kind of comes back to me being relationship driven. That I always put relationship first, because if I know my athlete, the better I know them, the better I know how to coach them. Because I don't believe everyone can be coached the same way. I think there's a better way for each individual athlete. So the better I know them, the better I can kind of work with them. And the same kind of goes for if I work in a club or with a board. Like I get really interested in the people I'm working with, because I think you can do you can work better together if you know them better. So that's probably the one. If I could put it into one word, I would choose.
Yeah, I mean those relationships are incredibly important. And like you say, you do need to motivate different people in different ways. And I think a lot of the old school style of motivating, right? The screaming and shouting, trying to pump everybody up. To me, it doesn't work very well. I think in this sport, like you want people to think, right? We need people with clear heads and confident abilities to go out there and get the job done, right?
Absolutely. And I think from just from experience and like going from, I coached one team that was really good at communication, because that's also a big part of how I coach. I love to have a team that communicates. And then um yeah, and they got to a new team and they were really quiet. And then I tried to challenge them a bit with my coaching, being like, okay, well, how do you think you can solve this? Okay, what do you think you can communicate about? What do you think solves this solution? What can you do? And they were like, well, shouldn't you tell us? You're the coach. And that's when I was like thinking about reflecting on it, thinking like, okay, well, I realized this team has had a lot of coaches who's kind of more dominating and has authority and yelling at them, telling them exactly what to do. No one's really asked them questions. So I think that like we're not the ones on the court, the players are on the court. So if we can teach them how to think for themselves and how to solve things, I think that's a better way of coaching. And I see that kind of coaching style transition a little bit. And I see people being more relation based and caring more about the athletes and figuring out how their brain works, rather than just kind of being the hardcore coach on the sideline yelling at them and telling them exactly what to do without understanding the game.
I think you touched on a really important point there in and there's an American guy, Lauren Anderson, who does a lot of work with the ecological approach and trying to generate what we call athlete self-efficacy, where athletes make their own decisions and, like you say, they take the lead. The athletes take the lead as much as possible. He talks as a coach about almost trying to make yourself useless over the course of your training sessions, because you generate and you develop athletes that can solve problems themselves and they don't need the input from you. And I think one of the areas with the best, especially the best young coaches that I've worked with and had conversations with, they're very good at almost coaching themselves out of the situation and making it so that they don't have any impact on game day because the athletes have solved the problems before. And I think then when you have to have an impact, or when you see something that is impactful, it doesn't get lost in the noise of you trying to be the dominant personality all the time. When you talk, okay, we need to listen because this is worth hearing. If coach is saying something to us or giving us a piece of advice here, it's really worth listening to because they haven't given me 30 million pieces of information over the course of the game leading up to it.
Yeah, and you think about it, there's like 6 people on the court. So the people on the court need each other. They need to make each other function in a way. And as a coach, you can't control all those 6 people, and they have to learn how to control each other. So they need to kind of work together. So they have to learn to coach each other too. It's not just us. So yeah, they both need to understand why they're doing the things they're doing that will make them better players. But it's also like, how do I make my teammates better so my game gets better?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that side of things. Obviously, as you said you're 34 years old, female coach in quite a male-dominated space. And I know there's a couple of female coaches here in the UK listening to this that will appreciate some of this advice. Kind of, how have you been able to navigate this start of this journey of being a professional coach as a young female in a very male-dominated environment?
Well, I think one thing I constantly telling myself is just do, don't think. Raise your hand, check, like ask people, go out there, raise their hand for opportunities. That's kind of what is getting me further. I think when I like I said before, I was thinking I'm going to go as far as I can. I didn't think there was barriers or anything. I'm just going to go all the way. I didn't think there was a difference if you're a male or a female. I didn't think there were hazards. That didn't cross my mind. So the things I've learned probably the last 2 years, if I knew this by the time I did my first coaching course and decided to be a coach, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. So I think that it's like we're a little bit hesitant about raising our hands, like women in general, which I think is more of us being perfectionists than thinking that we're never ready. We want to do this and this and this before we finally raise our hand and are ready. But you learn on the job, and that's the thing. I feel like guys are so good at just raising up the hand and just jumping in it, and like I give them so much credit for it because I think it's awesome. But I wish us females did that more, and I understand why we don't, because we want to have a good plan. We want it to be perfect. So I think like just do and don't think too much is a good advice. And also, just some of the barriers I've had is like one that I think is tricky is the one where you don't feel listened to. Like I do experience a lot where I want to network with other people and I'm really excited to start this conversation, and it's very one-sided a lot of the times. While my male colleagues, they're networking really well, and I started observing how a lot of my situations, it was very one-sided. And with the same people, the same coach, male, female, I was trying to like look at it. I was like, it can't be possible. I think it's like a maybe personality thing. But I do realize there is like a thing where you don't really get listened to, respected for your competence. And that used to piss me off. But then after talking to other female coaches and realizing this is a thing, and I do have a lot of male colleagues and other coaches that is a mutual decision, not decision, but conversation. I just have to be aware of it. And I think if you meet those people, you don't actually need their advice. You don't need the conversation. If they don't want to learn from you, that's okay. And you let it go instead of letting it irritate you. Because now I have a big network and have people I like to have in my network. And people can see that you're doing good things, and your players will know. And your board, like whoever you're cooperating with, your colleagues, if you have a good support system around you, it really doesn't matter. But I think I got caught up too much about feeling not respected and not heard until I realized I don't need people to listen to me if I have my support people around me. I think that's something that I would have saved me a lot of frustration if I kind of just let that part go a couple of years ago.
I love that. Like one of the conversations I've had with a young coach this week that we're working with is like we all make mistakes in practice. Players make loads of mistakes in practice, but even as coaches, I make mistakes all the time, right? And it's just not letting those mistakes, the same things you tell your athletes, right, about not letting the mistake judge what you're going to do next. As a coach, you have to be the same way.
Yeah, take your own advice.
Yeah, you might get something a little bit wrong, but that doesn't make you a bad coach right there and then. Yeah, we've all had... I set up these games in practice that sometimes don't work, right? And very quickly I can realise 2-3 minutes in, right, this isn't working, we need to change it. And the worst thing you can do in that scenario is just hold and wait and let it go and let it keep going. Just cut it off there and then. And your athletes will respect you so much for doing that.
Yeah, and that's something I realized is like just when I started filming my own practices and watching myself coaching, that was actually really valuable. Just because I saw like, okay, what do I look like? How do I communicate? How much constructive feedback am I giving? And how did this actually work when I'm taking a step back and looking at it? And also like asking my athletes sometimes after practice and asking them for evaluation, not necessarily on the practice, but on each other and things like that. And then it happened more times than I thought it would, where people are saying like, oh, this practice was awesome. I think this was good. This was good. And that was the practice I thought wasn't good. So I think a lot of times we are a bit harder on ourselves as coaches because we want things to be good and something, if the players' intensity, if they're tired, then it's your fault. But you're working together as a team. So I think you can have the same practice 2 different days and it can look completely different. So I think just sometimes we can be a bit hard on ourselves, and we need not to be. Like we said, like take your own advice. We tell you athletes. Of course, we want to do a good job, but we're only humans.
And yeah, how important do you feel that self-reflection element has been to your journey so far?
For me, very important, because I get self-critical. I overthink. I'm a perfectionist. So writing things down and having a support system and some people that help me reflect, not tell me what to do or anything, but just kind of help me reflect on the thoughts I'm having or the sessions I had or this case or this athlete, that helped me kind of keep me grounded and keep me and I learn a lot from it. And that's the thing, when I get these situations, just as a female coach, if there's people are shaking hands with my assistant thinking he's the head coach, it's not me, I don't get annoyed, because I'm prepared for situations, and I know a lot of things of being a female coach in a man-dominated profession is which have to change something that's historical been a certain way. So, and I understand that. So I think just reflecting on the situation that happens and prepare for the next time things happen and figuring out tools to use. I think it's really good. So support people and writing things down. I think is important, and that's helped me.
One name that I want to quickly discuss with you, someone that I know you are a huge fan of, is Bertolacci, the Australian coach, coached in Switzerland for a long time, now coaching in France, just signed for a new team. And one of the things that I love about her is she's so unashamedly herself in everything she does. Right? She's not letting anyone dictate to her the way to do things. This is the way I think's best. I have this experience as a coach, as an athlete, as someone who's been involved in the game. I am really good at developing those relationships with my athletes, and I'm going to have success doing it that way. And I love that. And I think that's a really good path for especially young female coaches, but any young coach to kind of follow, find your style and then grow from there.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the funny thing with Lauren is that she I didn't have any female role models when I was younger, and that's what I think is important now. It is also a role that I can play for young coaches now, which I really appreciate doing, because I can kind of help other female coaches coming up, or even just young coaches getting help, or advice, or have some role models. I think it's really important. And it wasn't until I started thinking about where are the female coaches, because I did the coaching course and everyone told me to reach out to this coach and that coach, and they're all male. But I'm like, well, I want to talk to female coach because I want to ask female questions. How does it work? What barriers do you have? So I reached out to Shannon Windsor and Lauren Bartolacci, and they are very different. They're good friends. And we have some mutual connections. So I kind of just picked up the phone and called them. But Shannon was kind of like, well, is this the direction you want to go? You will get people working for you to do statistics, for example, things like that. Because I was questioning if I should learn statistics or not, what should I put my time on doing and learning. And she's very humble. I relate a lot to Shannon, her personality and her way of coaching. And then she pushed me on to contact Lauren, which is a little bit opposite. And Lauren was like, learn everything you can, be a sponge, pick up, if you can learn data volley, learn statistics. The more you learn, the more you know. And so that was really okay. And then I did ask her, how do you deal with you feel like people are not listening to you? And she was like, well, you know what? I don't really give a fuck. And that sentence has kind of stuck in the back of my mind, because I'm like, she is the one who kind of put it out there that if these other people don't want to learn from me, that's their loss. It's not mine. I don't need them. I have my friends. I have my people. I don't need other people. I have my team, my crew. I don't care. So that was the cool thing about Lauren, which is a big inspiration. And I know she's gone through her hazards and stuff and her barriers, but look where she's now. Look at all she did in Switzerland. So she's definitely someone I'm following, and huge inspiration. But just that combination of those two, I learned so much just from both of them, because they have different roles. Shannon Windsor was the national team coach of Canada, and she's still involved with the Next Generation program, which is similar to something I want to try and build in Norway. And kind of the academy part. And then Lauren is going all in for on the highways at the top level, and now in a new country where they never had a female coach in the top. So they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think both of them, I learn a lot from both of them as well. And I love Lauren's attitude to things. I think if you feel, the more confident you can feel about what you're coaching and the way you're coaching, the better you're going to be at doing it. Right? If you're second guessing yourself, no one's going to listen to you. You can go out and say confidently things that are very, very wrong. And if you're confident enough, people are going to listen and try and implement it. Whereas if you go out and say you can have all the answers in the world, if you're not super confident on them, people aren't going to listen.
Yeah.
And I like Sharon Windsor's the way that she has kind of built the relationship side of it with Canada. I think she did a really good job of that early on, and kind of brought some of the key players in that national team back into the fold after they'd been a bit hit and miss in recent years, and they had some great results. And you don't attract a coach like Guidetti to come in and follow you on unless you've done a really good job of building your national team to be on a really solid, stable base.
No, exactly.
So, not necessarily moving away, but sort of going back to this idea of coaching as part of a team and a team of coaches. Now, a lot of people listening to this in the UK may not have loads of experience working with a team of coaches per se. But then when we go up to sort of national team and junior national team level, we're working in groups of 3 or 4, probably very similar to what you're doing. But talk about that group dynamic and how being part of like groups of coaches, pairs, whatever it is, working with teams, how some of those best groups have worked together and some of the things that you've been able to pick up over the last few years.
I think this one team I don't think I ever forget it, because with them, I got the relation really fast. It hadn't gone well. I kind of took over the team where they hadn't really done well in the past. And so it was kind of an easy team to kind of step into to do a good job. But I built a relationship with them very fast. So every time I came to practice, they always knew there was a reason behind every drill I did. But with that also came, I did mistakes too. Like I did punishment for errors and the wrong type of errors. We're not thinking through what the errors were, and like things like that. But they would run through a burning building for me because they knew I would do the same. So, and this is stuff like, this is a situation where I was by myself. I didn't have an assistant. This is me and my team. So we built something really special. So from there, going into having a team, which I thought was hard because I'm not used to having a team with people. But then when I had the national team in Norway, which I've had in the last few years, working with Vidar Macedo, it's been really fun because we have good relationship and we know what each other is thinking, and we both kind of complement each other and building that relation. So we have found a really good balance between that we want the sport to be fun, that we want to push them, we want to push them in the right way, we want to educate them. So I think like setting the culture is like, depends how you do it. Like we kind of set our culture, but doesn't mean I can give a specific advice on how someone else would do it. But I think regardless if you have a team or not, I think spending time with your assistants, if you have assistants, spend time with them off the court, hang out with them, get to know them. Like you mentioned earlier, that you like to get to know, like we want to get to know people. When we as coaches, we want to get to know the coach, not just the players, because we want to know how they function and have a good relationship, because that will show to the players. The players will notice. If we're coaching together and we don't have a good dynamic, the players would know, and the energy will transfer. So I think if it's you or the team and you spend a lot of time with your group, just as the head coach and with your players, you can create a good culture there if you focus on the right things. Same thing in the team. But then again, I keep coming back to relationship focused, being relationship driven in the team, whether it's with the coaches or your group. I think that can make the biggest difference.
I think as well that relationship aspect of it can be really enthusing as a coach. I and I'm sure you have the same, right? I love being on court and I love coaching volleyball. I don't love the admin side of the job of being a professional coach. That's not what I do the job for. Right? I do the job to be on court and help players get better. And sometimes walking into practice after 4 or 5 hours of meetings, of admin, of sorting logistics and schedules, and checking up on people's classes and how they're doing in class, and all of that side of things, I feel drained. And then I walk into practice and I have 3 or 4 small conversations saying hello to athletes, or my technical analyst, or other people, and suddenly my mood has just flipped completely. And I think that's the biggest thing for coaches. And I know a lot of coaches listening to this will have a day job and then go and coach. Like, that can just change your day massively if you get to know the people you work with.
Yeah, and this is some advice I often give to the girls I'm coaching if they're having a bad day, is to trying to shift your focus to someone else and make someone else great that day, or do something nice, give them extra attention, because they will notice and they will give it back and they will make you feel good. So it's the same thing. Like, you come in, you're tired, but you put a face on, you put some energy on, and you use the girls' names, you give them some feedback. Oh, great swing there. Like, I like their good rotation. I know you've been working on that. That's great. And then they're like, oh, thank you. And you can see they're getting even better because they got a little carrot, they got the little positive thing. And then now they're playing even better. That makes you feel good as a coach, because you're there to make them better. And seeing other people appreciating it, you can let things go. So it's the same thing I tell my players: if you're having a bad day, like, help someone else out, because that will make you feel better and put your focus on something else. And it's the same thing with coaches. You come in and you're tired. These athletes appreciate you so much. And I know we're all there because we love volleyball, and that's why we coach. That's the foundation of it. But it's just like, no matter what stage or level you're at, I always say the academy stage is really exciting because you can make the biggest impact rather than a senior level. But I think you can still make a big impact either way, because you can impact the players' lives a lot. And they might not say it, but they do know that people are taking the time off to come into that gym after working full time and studying and do all that. They do appreciate it. And yeah, when you see the work that you do and you see these players like thriving, it's because you show up there every day. And we need to not forget about that.
You spoke a little while ago about the Norwegian junior national team. Obviously, we played against you guys at Nevza this last year, and a couple of things that really struck me, and I'm really glad you spoke about coaching in a way that the girls have fun, because I thought playing against that team, yes, super talented, right? Loads of really great athletes, know the game, played really, really well, but they looked like they were enjoying every minute of that tournament, even the tough moments, right? And you're going to have tough moments, and then you turn around and they still have smiles on their faces. And it looked like they didn't have any kind of pressure coming from the bench about what they had to do. It was a little bit a case of, I'm going to go out and play with confidence, and I'm going to take that big swing to try and score the point, because I know the people on the bench and the people around me believe I can go and coach. Now, I don't know if that was the case, but that's the instinct I got sitting on the sidelines watching the game.
It's funny that you're saying that, because we've heard that multiple times. And when we went to the second qualification round in Portugal last year, for the U20, one of the referees told us that. It did the exact same thing. And then trying to look back at it, it's like, it's like we always try to make the girls communicate and work together, because if we can't make the other people work, then it's not going to be a good product. It's no point of having 6 good players on the court but you don't know how to work together. So it's something I always said, like, even for this U22 team now, when I'm head coaching, I would rather pick someone with a great work ethic who really wants it than someone who's the best one there and then. So for this project now, it's more like, where do they want to go? What can we do with them? What do they want? What can they give on the court? And not look, because everyone can look great now, but when they choke at the championship, like we don't know where they're at mentally. So for our girls, we just always try to prepare them mentally for being like, the pressure will be there. We will be underdogs, but how fun is that? There's no expectations. But we have expectations to each other that, we want to perform together, and you have to make someone else good for you to perform good. It doesn't work individually. So, and that's something I still believe in and will bring into the U22 team as well. And this is the group we kind of had for years. So I just skipped that age group last year because they were too old, most of them. Some of them are in. But we're kind of getting our old group back that went to Portugal, which is really exciting with some extra players. So it's something I feel like it's a really easy group to coach because they already kind of have the foundation. But yeah, it's not like it's particular secret or anything. I think it's just like we do not stand there and yell at them. We don't want them to be scared of making a mistake. We want them to work on the court for each other because they're the one on the court and they need to communicate. And communication is everything. I didn't even talk about what kind of communication. Yeah, but it's funny hearing that because it's like we don't really do anything particular for other people to see us that way, but it makes me happy because that means that other people are seeing that what we kind of maybe it reflects how we want the team to be. We don't want them to be scared, and they know they're underdogs, but they know it's like exposure and they need it, and this is what they're thriving for. So they go in and they have fun, and I'm glad it shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think that positive environment is, and we're going to keep coming back to it. People are going to listen, and they're going to hopefully keep hearing this because the environments that I've worked in, and this year we had a phenomenal year. This year we won the University National Championship. We finished second in our pro league, and the environment I had all year was super positive. Really, really similar to the environment you've just described. Athletes allowed to take risks and make mistakes, right? Because especially in practice, that's what practice is for.
Yeah.
Right? It's to go and test the limits of what you're able to do. But even in matches, we talk a lot about if you see the kill, you go for it. Don't care about the outcome. If you see the kill, you got the back and you go for the kill. And I think that's a big area that a lot of coaches can struggle with as they're early in their developmental phase. They hear so much of, you got to limit the errors, you got to limit the errors. But eventually you're going to get to play against teams where you have to take some risk. Otherwise, you're not going to match them because they're better than you are. They're better athletes and they can bounce the ball harder than you. So your athletes have to go in and take some risk to beat them. And if you've never practiced that, it's going to feel very, very alien.
Yeah, and it's funny when some people ask me about coaching boys versus girls. And since thinking about it and then doing drills and stuff, girls are very calculated. If they hear the rules and they hear the points, they are thinking what's the quickest way to get that point. And which is really funny because the boys don't think, they just do, which is also great. And then it comes to the games, right? And girls are gonna attack, but they're calculating the odds they're gonna score on that set. And they're like, okay, the odds are bad. Here, I'm gonna tip it. I'm gonna send it over. Or, oh yeah, they said it's off. I need to send a free ball over. I'm not gonna be able to hit it because they're calculating the odds. It's not like they can't hit it, but they're calculating. And then that part is the thing I feel like we're working against, because if we're focusing too much on, if I'm talking too much about don't do errors, that's going to reinforce the calculation, the odds, and be like, okay, well, we can't make errors. So my odds are they're going to take them down. So I think just, how you communicate it with the players and how you work them, I think you really have to be cautious about how you talk about errors and what they are. And sometimes I talk about positive and negative errors because at practice, if you're hitting it out, why are you digging a hole in the ground? How much out was it? Your intention to get it in? Okay, great. The intention is there. Then you keep practicing, keep hitting it out till it goes in. If it goes in the net, then there's no chance, in the game. What was it with your toss? Like which part didn't work? And I find too often that athletes just kind of write off the whole action, like, oh no, that was bad. But then I'm always asking, like, but which part? Which part was bad? Which part do you need to change? Because you're obviously here because you're doing something right. You're part of this team for a reason, or group, or academy. So it's not bad. But I want to know which part you'd like to change, and we can work on that.
And you have to say it to them over and over and over and over again until they understand. But that is coaching, right? You have to be relentless in it, especially when you're working with teenagers, with adolescents, with young people. They're not going to get it straight away, and they want to win. They want to succeed. They want to be the best at doing this. They wouldn't be putting the effort in that they do if they didn't. And sometimes they just need that little bit of help managing the emotional side of trying to be as good as they can be.
And I think we're working against, maybe sometimes we're working against a coaching approach that has been for a long time. It's a typical standard how things should be. I have one girl asking me if I could yell at her the whole practice because she wanted to know what that feels like. And I'm like, okay, but what happens if I yell at you for something that you disagree with? And then she's like, oh, okay, maybe not like only in certain situation. I was like, well, the situation will come where I will yell at you for something and you won't agree. And then you get frustrated. So I just don't see the point of me yelling at you. I see better pulling you aside and be like, hey, how do you solve this situation? Or I'd like you to try this or try that, rather than standing there and yelling. So I think like working with the girls, calculating the odds, whether it's that or whether it's them being too hard on themselves or scared to go for the ball. Like I think it kind of all connects with kind of, maybe it's their previous coach did one thing and then you're coming in and you have a new coach do something else. That's why I always think the person, if you get to know the person, know who they are, then you already know you're not working against something, you're working with someone, something, and that something is the person, the coaching.
So we're 40 minutes into this podcast and you've dropped little nugget after nugget about coaching that people should take and listen to. We've not spoken about anything technical in the last 40 minutes of this podcast. And I think that's amazing. And I think it shows that you have to build the relationship side of it first.
Yeah, right? Like volleyball is not black and white.
No.
It's not. And you can watch videos, you can watch the top levels and see what they do. You're not supposed to do this, but then you see a top level person doing that, scoring a point, then suddenly it's okay. So I always believe like I don't have a specific system or specific things I work off. Like I do, but I always look at my group who I have and see what works with them. Because what's the point of me forcing a different system if what they have works for them? So it still comes back to the players and where I know them, even know the body, like how they move. Maybe my way of teaching the technical arm swing is not their natural arm swing that the body will allow them to do. Then I'm wasting time trying to change something that doesn't need to be fixed. So yeah, I think just coaching, we can talk about technical stuff, but it's going to be, it would depend. I think the thing you do is to get to know the person and you coach the people.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the world of volleyball and you have Micheletto, who is 7'2", 215 centimeters, and you have Sabrina Koga, who's 5'2" and 156 or 160 centimeters, and they're both great passers. How can you say there's one technical way of doing things if people with such different body types are both really good passers of the ball?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I guess it depends, like maybe what level you're coaching at or something where you would start teaching technical skills. But it's like I had one situation where a girl was like, oh no, I jumped in my reception, but her reception was perfect. And I'm like, you know what? I actually don't care what your body does. Because you see what happened. You jumped, but your platform was angled towards the setter. It was a perfect pass. So why are you complaining? watch the international game. You see them jumping in reception too. Like, the end of the day, if your platform is like a plate and it's angling towards where you want the ball will go there. So does it really matter what the rest of your body does? Really?
I 100% agree with you. Like, it's the simpler you can make this game, which is chaotic and it is a complicated sport to understand. So the simpler you can make it, the more likely your athletes are to be successful at doing it.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is about, so a lot of the younger coaches, the junior coaches here in England, they don't have the contact time with their athletes that you would have at an institution like Valspringer, an academy. If you had much more limited time with your junior athletes, where would you focus, or what would you focus on with those athletes moving forward?
Because I was in that situation before, I think finding time for the athlete, I think, is important. And I did try to take that advice and set off like a small conversation with all of them. But that was taking a lot of time, and then there was practice, and I couldn't even figure. I had like 5 minutes before and after, and it was really tricky to do it. So if you can find the time to have individual conversation, just like, how's the past few weeks been, how's life, how's school, but mainly let them talk, because you can learn a lot from your athletes. But I understand that was hard for me too. One thing that was really successful is I did a team bonding session with them, and it was a secret activities. I've done this a few times. So a secret activity, I signed them up for something, and I'll join. And we did, we've done a few, but one was cheerleading. I met a cheerleading coach one time, and I asked if we could exchange some favors, and if she can do a cheerleading session with my volleyball girls. And she's like, sure. So they didn't know what they were doing. They just had the address and the clothing, like what they're going to wear, turned up, and it was like, welcome to cheerleading. And then I had to do all the trust things, toss up in there, but it was all fun and games. We took volleyball just completely aside and did something together. And just from that session, we used the practice time to do that. But that helped bonding the team and me with the players, because there I found time to talk to them and laugh together and, do something that's not volleyball. So they kind of got to know me a little bit more and each other in a different way. So I think if you have a chance to do that, sacrifice the practice, do something random. I made a secret just because I didn't want anyone to pull out in case I didn't want to go cheerleading, but it was scary. So I don't know if you want to make it a secret, but I think just take them away from the volleyball court, do something like that. It's going to help with the connection on the court too. That's the thing. It will be volleyball related because the team will work better together. So I think it will take away frustrations if they had frustration on the court the past week. Now they're doing something fun together that's not volleyball related, and they'll let it go. So that's probably like my biggest advice that you can do to find that time.
I love that, and I think the reason I really love that answer is the fun element of it, right? So the first thing you think of, right, limited contact time, right, let's go and do something fun to build some relationships, right? Something fun, something memorable, something that will make those athletes want to come back, want to work really, really hard for one another, have that shared memory of a new skill they've learned, a time where they've all been a little bit vulnerable, right? Because none of them have ever done cheerleading before. None of them are going to be very good at it naturally. No. So they're all going to be a little bit vulnerable with one another. And suddenly all those barriers are down with everything that they want to do. And I don't think it's really sacrificing a practice at that point. It is actually, we're going to build some bonds and learn some skills that are going to help us with everything we do throughout the year. Right? Because you could take those 2 hours or whatever it was and you do loads of work on passing. But that's one small element of the game. Whereas those themes of relationship building and being able to trust one another, they run through everything you do.
Yeah, they work as a team. They're teams. You got to find a way to work together.
And I think not enough coaching at lower levels. A lot of the coaching is focused on how can I improve the athlete. And in a team sport, really, I think we should be developing the team as a whole. and that way the athletes will develop as part of that team. But if you can develop the best volleyball player in the world, but if they can't play as part of a team, they're not going to make it at any kind of level. Because why would you won't be able to work together? It's the ultimate, for me, the ultimate team sport, because one good player can't win against 6 pretty good players.
Exactly. And that's the thing that's like so much fun about volleyball too. And just that it being team sport, it does connect a lot of different things. Like the how you are as a person and how you cooperate with other people and the communication part, because if no one communicates on the court and you 6 people when you're gonna figure out how to work together, they all go hand in hand, and it's nothing that requires talent. Like, and that's the thing. I always often bring up the little, you can Google like 10 things that doesn't require talent. And that's something I bring up all the time for my teams. It's like, this is something you can do. You can choose to communicate, and it doesn't have to be verbal, it can be nonverbal. Like, there's different ways of communication. So yeah, no, it's that's the thing, that's what we coach. It's like, volleyball is fun, it's a fun sport, but there's so many different cool aspects of it. And the people side, the human side of it, how we connect with each other and how things are working together, and how do we actually make like 6 people on one court in one area working together with one ball? It's super cool, really.
We're not coaching robots, we're coaching human beings. Right? And the game would be far less interesting if we were coaching robots. One final thing that I want to touch on, and I'm going to touch on this with every guest that we have on the show, looking ahead a little bit at the game and where the game's at right now, what excites you the most about the future of volleyball?
The possibilities. Like, I'm a very creative person, which I also say I'm a creative coach. I like how the game is getting faster. People are getting more physical. They're talking about hiring the net. It's you're seeing more and more liberos setting middles, which is something I'm really a fan of, because it's creating more options. Now people are using the opposite as the big power hitters. So it's like, if you're an opposite, now it's not just if you're lefty, but it's more like you're a big power hitter if you're opposite. You want to hit towards one. I'm waiting for them to freaking change the whole thing around. I know there's some teams that have the setters running from 4 and 5. Like, I'm waiting for that. Like, I just think like the game is evolving, and I think the top teams are showing what you can do, and other coaches are adapting, and then the games are changing. So I just think, yeah, that's it. I'm excited where it's evolving, because it constantly is. And the creative part of it, I'd like to see more, and I hope I see more, and I hope I see some crazy changes that we can adapt to. That excites me.
Yeah, I think the game is in that stage, and I think at the real top level, especially of the club game, people are going to have to innovate, because no one's beating Caneliano right now with that lineup. Right? No one. Santarelli has gone out and had so much success in the women's game in the last few years. And how are you going to beat him right now? That team made 4 errors in a 4-set game in the Italian finals.
It's
how
insane.
are you going to beat that without changing something?
Exactly. You got to do something. I'm curious to see what that change is going to be. That'll be something cool.
Yeah, likewise. And I think it will be. Well, Maria, thank you very much for your time this evening. For everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. I really hope, and I can't believe that anyone will have listened to that and not taken away 4 or 5 new things and new ideas that you can implement into your games and into your training sessions moving forward. Please make sure you follow us on Instagram. It's at Volleytribe_. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. And join us. I'll be back on Monday with another one of my Monday musings, where we go through one of the elements of ecological coaching and how we can fit that back into the game and into the world in the English volleyball scene. Stay safe and well, and I will catch you guys in a bit.